Stop. I want you to take a look around you. Think about what is real and what is not real. What is created and what can be destroyed. This is what we'll be talking about today. This video will be separated into different sections: creation and destruction, artificial intelligence, and the Burden Law. For this first section, I want you to remove all knowledge of religion, scientific facts, and theories. Let's travel back to the beginning, or as we say, the beginning. And let's add in the knowledge of the Big Bang, where all these particles explode and create the universe as we know. Now let's add in the theory of the Big Crunch. Our universe is in a constant battle of expanding and shrinking. With the shrinking force there's gravity, which pulls stuff together, it attracts each other, and expanding faster than ever. For example, when a star dies, it's because it runs out of the elements that it needs to burn. So when those resources are up, gravity takes over, shrinks it down, and you have a potential explosion. This theory is known as the Big Crunch, where the universe is in a constant battle of shrinking and expanding. With gravity on the force of the shrinking side, eventually the universe will fall. It'll fall to a point where gravity takes hold and shrinks down, and all that energy that was built up needs to be released somehow, and it explodes. And this is how you get the next Big Bang. So the universe is constantly restarting itself, and it loses the battle to expansion. Eventually, gravity should take over in all battles ever. Here's a source from scientist Kaku, who will explain further into the Big Crunch.
In cosmology, we believe that the universe started off in a Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago. All alternatives have been pretty much ruled out. Steady-state theories, other alternatives have been ruled out. However, how will the universe end? We have several possibilities. One possibility is a big crunch, when the universe squashes together in a gigantic ball of flame and maybe bangs once again. The universe is not mainly made out of atoms. 4% of the universe is made out of atoms, just 4%. 23% is made out of dark matter. 73%, which makes up most of the universe, is dark energy. And unfortunately, we are clueless as to what dark energy is and what dark matter is. We now know there's a lot more dark energy than we previously thought. Therefore, the universe is undergoing an inflationary exponential expansion. It is in a runaway mode. But here's the catch. We don't know how long that runaway mode is going to last. Some people say that it's temporary. We're in this huge expansion right now, exponential expansion, but it's going to reverse itself. Instead of a red shift, we'll have a blue shift as the universe collapses. At the present time, we simply don't know. Why don't we know? Because we don't know what dark energy is.
Some would argue that artificial intelligence is a huge threat to official intelligence. Now this is where I want you to put religion aside. What do you think the current possibilities of us being a simulation, not technically speaking a technological simulation, but a simulation in general by an artificial intelligence or a more advanced intelligence? Now this is where you can bring some religion back, and where we say that our creator, God, created us and he is that more advanced intelligence. Technically we are a simulation, not by machine, but in his image. But once you bring scientific into it, with history, with current and past religions, you get to this point of advanced intelligence, as in otherworldly intelligence. This could explain alien sightings, as in, for example, the Egyptians. In their writings, they see more advanced machinery in the sky. And for us, we have seen alien sightings in the sky, or people who claim to be abducted. And there are over 70,000 reports, way over 70,000 reports of this happening. And if this is true, and we can't find any other life in the universe, it's probably because they don't want us to see. We are definitely not ready to see more life outside of the universe. Now, to furthermore explain these possibilities, I want you to take a look at these few scenarios by another theorist.
We humans are unable to experience the true nature of the universe unfiltered. Our senses and brains can only process a fraction of the world. So we have to use concepts and tools to learn about the true nature of reality. Technological progress not only widened our knowledge about the universe, it also made us aware of unsettling possibilities. In the future, it might become possible to simulate entire universes. But if this is an option, how can we know that it's not already happened? What if we are not creators, but creations? Is it possible that we are not real and we don't even know it? If our current understanding of physics is correct, then it's impossible to simulate the whole universe with its trillions and trillions of things. But we don't actually need to anyway. We only need enough universe to fool the inhabitants of our simulation into thinking that they're real. Who needs billions of galaxies? We only need the space our subjects are allowed to explore.
The vast universe could just be a flat projection, and they would have no way to know.
What about small things like cells or bacteria? We don't really need them. When you use a microscope, what you see could be instantly created. Same with atoms. The chair you're sitting on right now does not need to be simulated with quadrillions of atoms. We just need the outermost layer of it. It might be empty inside until you decide to break it open. Your body might feel like it's filled with bubbly things, but it might be empty until you open it. The minimum requirement for our simulation is only the consciousness of our virtual humans. Our subjects just need to think the simulation is real. Okay, so are we being simulated? Well, maybe, but there are a few conditions that need to be met. Obviously, we have no authority over this topic, so please take everything we say with a grain of salt. Based on a modified version of the original simulation argument by Nick Bostrom, we have 5 assumptions for you. If they're true, you, dear viewer, are living in a simulation. Assumption 1. It's possible to simulate consciousness. Nobody knows what consciousness is. For the sake of argument, let's assume that you could generate consciousness by simulating a brain. Brains are pretty complex.
If you count every interaction between synapses as one operation, your brain runs at about 10 to the power of 17, or 100 million billion operations per second. Let's generously assume we need 10 to the power of 20 operations to simulate 1 second of human consciousness. But we don't want to simulate just one human, we want to simulate all of human history at once so we can skip around. Let's say we want to simulate 200 billion humans with an average lifespan of 50 years. 1 year has 30 million seconds, times 50 years, times 200 billion humans, times 10 to the power of 20 operations.
So we need a computer able to handle a million, trillion operations.
And this would lead to the belief in a more advanced society.
Per second. More operations than there are stars in the observable universe. A computer like this is just impossible. Except maybe it isn't. Assumption 2. Technological progress will not stop anytime soon. If we assume that technological progress continues in a similar fashion as it has so far, then there might be galaxy-spanning civilizations with unlimited computer power at some point. Beings on a technology level so advanced that we could barely distinguish them from gods.
Side note, most people wouldn't think our God is an ancient being. He should be more of a advanced technological intelligence. This is why so much stuff in the Bible would not fit with reality itself. For example, we know the dinosaurs existed millions and millions of years ago, but the Bible does not locate that in the timeline. Sure, you could say that the animals were a part of the dinosaurs, but yet there were no humans at this time. Or were there? So far back in time that history itself has recorded and erased the evidence. And we certainly know about otherworldly objects such as meteors and other planets and other stars and other solar systems. But why does the Bible not tell of that? Why doesn't the Bible tell of our exploration? Maybe it's because our creator or creators didn't want us to know. They don't want us to have the knowledge that we do of them.
A computer that can handle a million, trillion operations is serious business, but there are actually concepts for computers which could handle this. The Matryoshka brain is a theoretical megastructure made up of billions of parts orbiting a star feeding on its radiation. A computer of this scale would have enough power to simulate many thousands, if not millions, of humanities at the same time.
And this leads to the belief of the multiverse and the Vu effect, which we'll get into later in the video.
Other technologies, like high-end future quantum computers, might lower the size drastically, so it might be possible to do this with a structure the size of a large city, or even smaller. But only if there's still someone around to build the computer. Assumption 3. Advanced civilizations don't destroy themselves. If there is a point at which all civilizations destroy themselves, this whole discussion ends here. Looking into space, you'd expect a universe filled with millions of alien civilizations, but we see nobody. The reason for this might be great filters.
And this leads to the thinking of the intelligence not wanting us to find out about them.
Great filters are barriers life has to overcome, like nuclear war, asteroids, climate change, or a black hole generator.
And if you notice, almost every time we get so close to discovering something, a distraction takes us away from it.
If life is inherently self-destructive, then there are no simulations. We explain this in more detail in our Fermi Paradox video. Assumption 4. Super advanced civilizations want to run simulations. When we speak of post-human civilizations, we don't know what we're dealing with. To think we know what beings as powerful as gods want is pretty arrogant. Imagine the smartest ant on Earth living next to an amusement park. It's curious about what humans are up to, so you try to explain. Unfortunately, the ant just doesn't understand. The concept of roller coasters and standing in lines and holidays and fun doesn't make sense to an ant living an ant life.
This could explain why our brains get so frustrated about thinking what was before us, what was before the universe, what was before everything.
It's the same with us and a post-human being. Compared to them, we are ants. Running simulations for fun or science might be an absurdly stupid idea to them. But if they do want to run simulations for whatever reasons, and assumptions 1 to 3 are true too, then the chances are not zero that you are living inside a simulation. Assumption 5. If there are a lot of simulations, you are probably inside a simulation.
And this leads to the Vu effect, where deja vu is explained by points in time crossing over at the same moment, making it feel like you have lived this moment before in a past life, simulation, or universe.
If there are simulated civilizations, it's likely that there are a lot of them. After all, we assume that post-human beings have access to practically unlimited computing power. So if they run simulations, it would be convenient to run millions or even billions of them. If there are billions of simulated universes, there are probably trillions and trillions of simulated conscious beings, which would mean that the vast majority of all conscious beings that will ever have existed are simulated. So for every conscious being made of flesh, a billion simulated ones exist.
Which could lead to the dinosaur era being destroyed because it was a failed simulation.
Since we have no way of knowing if we are simulated or not, in this case, the chances of you being one of the 999,999,999 simulated ones are pretty high. So what you consider reality might not be real at all. You really might be simulated.
All of this is based on a lot of assumptions that we can't really test right now, so many scientists disagree with this whole thought experiment. So don't burn your house down to test if there will be glitches. If you are simulated, not that much changes for you. You might be on a small planet speeding through eternal nothingness, or a simulation inside a computer. your existence does not become more or less scary and bizarre. All we can hope to do is try to live good lives and have a good time.
Now let's move on to the burden law. Spend a night in the darkness. Your ears will make clearly of your burden. Spend a night in the light. Your eyes will make blindly of your absence. Because those who willfully see the future shall always be consumed in the attempt to choose it. The burden law, containing the butterfly, vu, and domino effect, make up the state of mind and draw the universe as one sees it. As Joseph Stalin says, death is a solution for everything. No man, no problem. This ties into the burden law, which states every action troubles the next, but time will tell its fate. In other words, this quote defines the butterfly, snowball, domino, and vu effect. The butterfly effect. For every action you make and choose, or movement, chooses the next, in a bigger or smaller force. Example, shaking a tree to make the snow fall scares the birds, for which one may be diseased and is eaten by a predator, which spreads the disease to make it worse. The snowball effect. Every situation will gradually grow over time if not controlled firsthand. The domino effect. Every event must go on and go down prior to the next. It is sparking another event through time. The vu effect. For every step you make, there's a universe where you don't, creating an alternative-like timeline of the decisions you could have made, but are different, with occasional points where actions are repeated. The idea is that we are living among millions of parallel universes, containing millions of versions of ourselves, carrying out our own lives. The deja vu effect can contribute to this theory, believing that as a crossover as a parallel universe, deja vu would explain this. Whatever you're doing while experiencing deja vu, a parallel version of you is doing in a different universe simultaneously, creating an alignment between the two universes. Now, none of this could be true, but I want you to keep it in your head as if it were. A lot of these stories fit into each other. Reality and the universe ties together. Just think about what does not make any sense and what does make sense. Why can't we figure out stuff that are so simple in our lives? Why does our brain get so frustrated when we try and figure out the very creation itself? Why can't we explain the abnormal appearances and sights throughout the world with stories of Rasputin and stories of sightings with the military, abductions? Just keep that in your head. Could we be in a simulation where the most advanced society does not want us to know? We will never know these answers. It's just us to keep thinking.